Hello and welcome to the lecture series on automobile engineering. Today we'll start with the braking system, that is the third unit of automobile engineering subject. So the main important unit of an automobile that controls the vehicle is the braking system. So what is the importance of braking system? That basically stops the vehicle within a smallest possible distance to prevent the accidents. Okay. So they are required to stop the vehicle within that distance because somebody may come across and that has to be stopped suddenly. Okay, and this is done by converting the kinetic energy of the wheels into the heat energy which is dissipated into the atmosphere basically. So the braking action is that the kinetic energy of the moving vehicle is being converted into heat energy by applying the friction. Okay, so this is the principle of braking system. Okay, so we can summarize it as the principle is the brakes convert the kinetic energy of the wheels into the heat energy which is then dissipated to the atmosphere. So why these brakes are required in the automobiles? Because the brakes must be strong enough to stop the vehicle within a minimum possible distance in an emergency, as I have told. But they should also be consistent with the safety. Okay, safety must be kept in mind on priority basis. The driver must have proper control over the vehicle during emergency. Okay, the driver should be able to act within a smallest possible duration of time. Okay, so the brakes must be applied on that small duration of time and the vehicle must not skid. So another function that may be served by brakes is must have uh, anti-fading characteristics. Okay, they should not fade rapidly. Okay, there should be some lifetime up to which it will work efficiently. And third purpose is because we know that the principle of braking includes the inclusion of the use of friction. So the friction generates the heat. So these brakes must be able to efficiently cool the systems, okay, like braking system. So we'll start with the braking efficiency. That is basically the maximum retarding force applied by the brakes at the wheels. And say if it is denoted by F, so this is equal to mu into W, where W is the weight component of the vehicle and mu is the coefficient of friction between road surface and the tire. Okay, so that is the mu. Okay, that is also important. So if unity coefficient of friction is achieved, then what will happen? The total retarding force produced at the wheels is equal to the vehicle weight itself, which is equal to the gravitational force. Okay, because from here we can see that. Okay, if this condition is met in practical situations, then what will happen? If this mu becomes unity, so the vehicle experiences a deceleration equal to the acceleration due to gravity, that is g, and the brakes are said to be 100% efficient. Okay, in that case we can say that the brakes are 100% efficient because this W becomes equal to G. Thus theoretical limit for brake efficiency is 100%. Okay, we can obtain a braking efficiency as 100%. So because we know that safety is major concern by choosing the braking efficiency, and very high efficiency may lead to rapid wear of the brakes. So in practical situations this may not be 100%. Okay, so requirements like safety of passengers in public services and safety of the body in case of heavy goods, that reduce the brake efficiency to some lesser extent. Okay, highly efficient brakes giving large deceleration may result into some accident. Okay, so braking efficiency, that's the reason why this braking efficiency lies in the range of 50 to 80%. 50% for foot brakes and 30% for hand brakes. Okay, and maximum efficiency may rise up to 80%. Okay, so we can compare a parameter that has been taken from reference number 1, that if the braking efficiency is 100%, say for example, and the vehicle is moving at different speeds like 30 km per hour, 50 km per hour, 80 km per hour and 100 km per hour. So what will happen to the stopping distance, because that is the very important parameter on which our consideration is based basically. So if the efficiency is 100% and the vehicle is moving at a speed of 30 km per hour, then we can see that this 3.5 meter is the stopping distance with that much speed, okay, even at 100% efficiency. And at 50 km per hour, the stopping distance is 9.8 meter. At 80 km per hour, it is 25.2 meter, and at 100 km per hour, it is 39.3. So what can we observe from here? That with a speed increase, the stopping distance also increases even with 100% efficiency. So speed plays a major role. So that's why the driver has to follow the speed limits and as prescribed by the manufacturer. So if the braking efficiency is less, say 80%, so now we can see that the stopping distance has raised to 4.4 meter as compared to 3.5 meters with 100% efficiency. So efficiency dropped, the stopping distance increases, okay, and so on. We can observe the same trend here for other cases. With 60% braking efficiency, the stopping distance has increased to 6 meters, okay, with 30 km per hour. And you know the general speed by the driver is around 50 to 80 km per hour, and these are the exceptional cases where the driver rides the vehicle to a very high speed, even more than 100 km per hour. So two observations can be made from here. First one is that with an increase in speed, with the same braking efficiency, the stopping distance increases. Second is that with a drop in braking efficiency, the stopping distance increases, okay. So during emergency, the driver reaction and response time plays an important role to calculate the braking efficiency. Emergency braking may lead to total stopping distance is divided into, so in case of emergency braking, the total stopping distance is divided into distance traveled during reaction time of the driver, distance number second parameter is distance traveled during the time between pedal pressing and actual braking, and net stopping distance based on deceleration. Okay, so this is the way by which we can compute the braking, emergency braking, and total stopping distance, okay, in case of emergency brakes. Now we'll discuss about the weight transfer. So from this figure we can see that the weight of the vehicle, okay, and these are the wheels basically, okay. So we can see here various forces acting at the time of application of brakes to a moving vehicle. So it is moving in some direction, okay. So as we know that inertia force will be acting, the weight of the vehicle will be acting, okay, gravitational force will be acting. So we want to compute the various forces that is acting on the vehicle during braking action. So the inertia force acts at the center of the gravity, okay, of the vehicle, while the retarding force due to the application of brakes acts at the road surface, okay. This is the retarding force, here we can see that. So these two forms are, so this inertia force acts at the center as we can see from here, and retarding force acts at the road surface. So these forms, if we enlarge them or will go along the line of action of the forces, we can see that these are basically parallel in nature, okay. And the combined effect of these forces forms an overturning couple, okay. This we can feel from here. This is the line of action of inertia force, this is the line of action of retarding force. So when acted together, this will form an overturning couple that will tend to this couple is formed, then that will turn to lift the vehicle from this side, okay. So this we can say that this overturning couple increases the perpendicular force between the four front wheels and the ground by an amount that is r, okay. This increases the basically perpendicular force that is acting over upper side between the front wheels and the ground by an amount of r, while the perpendicular force between the rear wheels and the ground is decreased by an equal amount. So in this case it will be increased by r because that will be shifted upward, somewhat upward. So this r force will be subtracted from this rear wheel, okay. When the brakes are applied, So this overturning couple will tend to lift the vehicle from this side. Due to this lifting effect, uh, this perpendicular force will be increased on this side because this will be lifted like this, okay, and this will be decreased by equal amount, okay. So some of the vehicle weight is then transferred towards the front side of the vehicle, okay, from rear to the front the weight will be transferred. So this is the weight transfer action, okay. So we can see that in vehicles where either the distribution of weight over the two axles is equal or the front axle carries more weight, the braking effect has to be more at the front wheels for efficient braking. Okay, that's why you might have seen many cases in which the front wheels are fitted with heavier with greater braking efficiency brakes like disc brakes. Okay, so in general, for achieving maximum efficiency, about 75% of the total braking effect should be on the front wheels. Okay, so if we say that the braking efficiency is 100%, so because of this effect of overturning couple, the front brakes must be 75% efficient, and the rear brakes here they may be 25% efficient. Okay, or whatever the efficiency, say for 80%, so out of that 80%, 75% must be transferred to the front wheel, and remaining 25% of 80% must be transferred to the rear wheel. So it must be designed in such a way that the weight transfer must be taken into consideration, okay. But in case such the trouble would arise while traveling over wet road, so if the road is not dry, then what will happen? There will be high braking effect at the front would cause skidding of the front wheels. Due to this high braking effect, this wheel may skid, okay, because of decrease of weight transfer. Because it is skidding, so weight will not be transferred on this wheel, so the braking efficiency will be dropped. So, in practical consideration, about 60% of the braking effort is applied on the front wheels only, okay, and 40% on the rear wheels, right? So this is the effect of weight transfer on the braking efficiency. So we may compute the same uh, parameter for a vehicle which is riding over a inclined plane, okay, like flyovers. So we can find out the expressions, okay, because here we have the inertia force, the weight is acting, the component of the weight, we can compute the frictional force, and other parameters based on this theta we can compute, okay, how much force is applied over the front and the rear. So now consider a case, we have to compute the force on moving vehicle down an inclined plane. It is climbing down, right? So some cases may be there when only front wheels brakes are applied. uh, for equilibrium condition, now we can solve this expression. Now see, only this brake is applied, okay. So what will happen? While climbing down, while coming down over an inclined plane, and if we apply this brake only, what will happen? So we can compute under equilibrium condition the rear and the front reactions, that will be equal to W cos theta. From this figure we can see that this will be equal to, this angle is theta, this is W, so this component W cos theta, okay. And by considering equilibrium we can find out that this W cos theta, that is acting at an angle, will be equal to the forces acting on the front and rear wheels, okay. And we can write also that this uh, friction force mu into Rf will be equal to W sin theta plus W by G into alpha. So we also know that under equilibrium the summation of all moments is 0. So applying this expression and finding out the moment about point B. So we can find out the moment about point B. So we can substitute this value of Rf and compute this parameter. So Rf will come out to be Wx cos theta by B minus mu h. And on the rear wheel, this force is equal to W into B minus x minus mu h into cos theta by B minus mu h. So in this way we can compute the forces acting over the vehicle while coming down an inclined plane. So now consider a case when only rear wheel brakes are applied. So equilibrium condition is again considered for forces and moments. So using the same concept, we can find out the value of RF and RR. Okay, only applying the rear brakes. Okay, so we have to take the moment about point A when the rear brakes are applied. So this we are applying here the brakes. So what will be the moment about this point A? Okay, so we can find out using this expression the forces acting on the front wheel and on the rear wheel. Okay, so this is the simple way. So now consider case when both front and rear wheel brakes are applied, that is equilibrium condition for forces and moments are applied over these expressions. Okay, so we may find out this expression as this parameter equation 1, equation 2 is applied over that for equilibrium, then put equation 1 in equation 2, we can get this expression, and finally the value of RF and RR, that is force on the front wheel and rear wheel, can be find out in case of condition where both brakes are applied. So we can see that in case of vehicle moving up the incline, theta may be taken as negative and the same expression may be used. Okay, so while climbing up we can find out the expressions also. Okay, so this is regarding the weight transfer and the forces acting on the brakes when they are applied, or like we are applying on a single wheel, we are applying on a double wheel, or we are applying on only rear wheel. Okay.